Hi, everyone. My name is Salena Coachman. I have the pleasure of being hopefully, a great substitute for Kedron Crosby and the team of the Behaviorists with Work Wisdom. Today, I have a friend and my guest, Aimée Deraco, who is the president and CEO of Brubaker here in Lancaster. Brubaker, I'm going to tell you about who they are, and then I'm going to chat more with you about who you are. Brubaker is a long-standing Lancaster company. They're founded in 1945. Yeah, I'm
Mhm,
pretty impressed with that. They provide HVAC, plumbing, electrical, remodeling, appliance sales and services, and commercial construction
mhm.
solutions. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's wonderful. I also know that the company recently transitioned to a 100% employee owned ESOP model, which is a major part of
Mhm.
why we're talking today and branching into what we feel an employee ownership culture really means.
Awesome.
I am going to do a little quick fire chat with you
Okay.
just so the people can get to know I may. So, if I go have my notes. All right, here we go. So, I may. What role is hard? CEO, mom, or grandmother?
Oh, definitely mom.
Mom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody that says raising adult children is easier because they're older is wrong.
Is
Yeah,
wrong. Yeah.
it's way more stressful.
Okay. What's one leadership lesson you learned at home that actually made you a better CEO?
Probably my husband when I come home saying, "You're not the CEO here. You're my spouse, so let's keep the CEO at work."
Yeah, a
So,
separation, right?
yeah, he taught me I don't have to be the boss all the time. Like, sometimes
Mm.
I can just be the partner.
Yeah, so how's that
I
working
can
out?
at work, I can do that too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Is there work you could be the partner?
yeah.
That's the conversation. When you're stressed or overwhelmed, what's your go-to reset outside of work?
My
The
grandsons. Yeah,
grandsons.
my grandsons for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, I like that. What is one thing that people get wrong about CEOs that is completely not true?
I think it's the fact that we're not really approachable people, that
Mhm,
we're kind of on this level, and I feel like I'm more approachable as a CEO because I think
mhm.
that I'm so happy and content in what I'm doing,
Yeah,
and me and my team, we're coworkers, so they don't look at me like that, but I feel like that's kind of a misconception that when somebody reaches that level, they're like,
yeah, yeah. I mean, and as we were just saying, right? You're all the things. You're a
"Mhm,
mom, you're a wife, you're a
mhm,
grandmother, you're a community leader,
yep,
and you're so much more. So it's like I didn't stop being a human
right,"
when I
and a
took this
coworker.
role and a
Mhm.
coworker. Yes, yes. And last but not least, fill in the blank. This is just leading. A strong ownership culture exists when people
Care about each other.
care about each
Mm.
other. I'm going to leave a little bit of silence there. I like it so much. Yeah. All right. So that helps me get this ball rolling. Thank you so much, Ame. And it's a pleasure to sit here with you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. She's also my personal friend. So if this gets a little wacky, that's
I don't
why.
admit that in
Okay.
public.
Yeah. So, as I may says, I like the fill in the blank piece, right? What is an employee owned culture? It really is about people that care about one another. And I think there's a different vesting when there is
Mhm.
care, right?
Yeah.
Ownership isn't assigned, it's something that is felt,
Mhm.
right? It's that whole statement of, people don't necessarily remember what you bought them,
Right.
but what do they care about? How you made
Mhm.
them feel, right? And that's where we want to be. That's the type of culture I know I want to be a part of.
Mhm.
So, as we talk about this ownership culture, it's helping people think bigger. How do
Mhm.
we think beyond how business was always done, right? So, in today's reality, and I'm just leading these things up to ask you a few questions. Today's reality of AI and our thought about workforce uncertainty with AI and things of the
Mhm.
sort, right? People are coming to you, I'm sure, as a president and CEO. What does this mean for brew bakers? What's going to change in my work? What's going to happen when the day occurs when this thing
Mhm.
takes over, right? There's so much uncertainty. It creates a space of disengagement sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Along with that. So the organizations that win in this type of culture, what do they look like to you? I mean,
It's funny because I think I get asked that a lot about, "Oh, you're an ESOP now, like,
yeah,
what is it like to have everybody, like, acting and feeling like an owner?" And I think we promoted that culture even before we became an ESOP. I mean,
yeah,
to our young team members, what is ESOP? Okay, every year we're putting some money in an account that you can't touch. It's not tangible, but we're telling you you're owners and we want you to act like owners. So I feel like I've always tried to build an ownership culture. And it's not necessarily, I want you to think and act like an owner, so save money and make sure we
hmm
make profit because that's usually the push, profit,
hmm
profit, profit. But
hmm
it's what does shared accountability look like? What
yeah,
does shared success look like? What does everybody at every level caring about each other in the company more than what's in it for themselves?
mm,
And I think that's a big part of that ownership culture that gets missed because people always say, I want my team to act and feel like owners. But what do you do to promote that?
yeah,
Do they win when the company wins? Or does the owner win when the company wins? And I think
mm,
that's a big gap. There's no, so last year we had a great year. Every team member in December got some sort of a bonus or profit sharing
mm,
because I want them to win when the company is winning as shared because we have shared ownership. And
yeah,
that would be whether we were an ESOP or not an ESOP.
yes.
But, I think I don't even know if I answered your question.
You are.
Yeah.
Keep going. I'm loving it. Yeah.
So yeah, that shared accountability and how are we sharing in that success? And
Mhm.
we promote at every level. It's not well, I want this for me. Well, if the company's winning when you win, that's great. That's aligned.
Mhm.
If you're asking to win, but the company or your teammates aren't going to win, or your fellow owners are not going to win, then we need to look at
We need
something
to look at
different.
something different.
And then we have to look as their cultural alignment with
Yeah,
what we're trying to build.
because it's truly not winning,
Right.
right? It's truly not winning, and it's very temporal
Right.
when people think that way, and that type of
Mhm.
mindset just lasts for a moment.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm. So ownership culture, and we can kind of think about if we agree with this. I was both reflecting and looking at material both from the Behaviorist and Work Wisdom, as well as Harvard Business Review. And one of the definitions I saw about ownership culture meaning employees act like stewards, feel invested, take initiative, and think beyond job description,
Mhm.
right? That thing you said, it's like, how do I own it? What does this really look like? Because
Right.
it's way beyond me getting a check at the end of the year,
Mhm.
right? So ownership is behavioral, in my opinion, and not something that's structured, right? I want to
Yes.
talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, I think for our team, it's easier the higher in leadership you get
Hmm.
to feel more of that accountability. You're responsible for KPIs and you're talking to your team about what that looks like. But we've shifted it a little bit now at Brubaker. We're in our third year being an ESOP. So we obviously talk about shared ownership more now than we did before, but
Yeah.
it was always a talk track that we had even before we became an ESOP. And even as I ran other businesses, that's always because I do think when you can get everyone thinking and acting with shared accountability, it makes a difference in how they feel, how they treat each other, how they go
Yeah.
home from work, how they come home from work or come to us from home. And it's important to me that, we have predominantly men in our workforce. It's important to me that when they go home to their families, they feel safe and secure. And as an owner, if something goes wrong,
Hmm.
like they've got to collect 103 people that should be there to say, what do you need? What
Hmm.
can we do for you? And it's not about the money at that point, or did they show up for work today, or are they out of vacation time?
Yeah.
It's this is what it looks like when we all care about each other. And then it's not a group of people saying, oh, why did Joe get to stay home today? Like, oh,
I didn't get to
I
stay
heard
home.
something's
Yeah.
going on with his kids, but is he having to take PTO? No, no, no. That's not the conversation. That's
Hmm.
self-serving. If you had a problem at home, we'd be doing the same thing for you because
Hmm.
that's what this company of shared ownership looks like
Yeah.
because we care about each other.
Yeah, I love this because what you're doing is giving them psychological safety.
Mhm.
It's like that is such a big piece of my ownership that I feel the people that I'm entrusting this work with,
Mhm.
not into, but with, is thinking about my well being, is saying that for the greater good of all of us, we want Joe well when he comes back,
Correct.
right? So what does that look like? What does it look like for me to stand in the gap
Mhm.
sometimes if that's occurring, especially if you have a team of, you said 108?
103.
103, so in Joe's space, there's probably 4 or 5 other people probably,
Mhm.
right? So how is that going to look for him to have psychological safety while he's dealing with that personal thing,
Yep.
right? So that's huge. I think another piece of that, along with the psychological safety, are 2 pieces, both inclusion and transparency. Can we sit there for a little bit and also? Yeah.
Yeah. Transparency is big. Every single time we have a problem internally, it's there wasn't clarity around something.
Mm.
And when you don't provide clarity, people fill in the gaps.
Mhm.
So, and I,
In any way they want to.
any way they want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
And, the Brubakers were subject matter experts
Yes.
that took over ownership of a legacy company. And I would say their dad was probably the more entrepreneurial, and they were a plumber and an HVAC technician who now, you know, bought this company from their dad and were running it. So subject matter expertise was always, lifted to the highest level.
Mhm.
But being business people or thinking like business
Yeah.
people wasn't really a skill set that most people had. So trying to make that shift to, understanding how do we think like business people? How do we ask questions when, we don't understand? How do we stop shifting blame that, well, nobody told me, so I just did this? And we're a team of adults. We're not a family. We're a team of grown adults trying to all work together
That
towards a
part.
common goal.
Yes.
And what does that look like? It's not, well, it's your fault because you didn't tell me. It's how about we communicate? And
Yeah.
if there's a gap,
Mhm.
then one of us didn't properly communicate
Yeah.
and there probably wasn't enough clarity. And for me, I'm trying to be the one that doesn't have to provide the clarity to the team the whole time.
Mhm.
I want, you know, we have layers within our organization, and I want managers to feel comfortable enough to now provide clarity to their teams. We're
Mhm.
moving to a new facility. What does that look like? Not every communication has to come from me
Yeah.
at every layer. And if you don't understand or you have a question, just ask.
Yeah. I am going to just take a moment to say how much we're aligned on this. Read the title of my next card.
I don't have my glasses on. Traditional leadership, ownership, oh, the leadership shift. Okay.
The leadership
I
shift.
can read.
Yeah, there is. I didn't say which
It's
line.
the only reason
Sorry.
she asked me is because
I
I
know.
can read.
But it's crazy. We didn't have a conversation about
No,
what I
we
had
did
on the
not.
cards. And it's the leadership shift. It's that whole when to know is it going to come from me or should this voice come from someone else?
Mhm,
It's a command control thing that we have to give up sometimes as an individual to say for the whole to understand that we're all vested in this. We're
mhm,
teammates, we're co-workers. What does that look like for me as the leader? Right.
mhm,
So let's go continue on that trajectory of the leadership shift because I really like your conversation
mhm.
on that. Do leaders really want ownership or compliance? And I'm not talking about you. Let's talk about overall what you probably see.
I would say as a whole, probably. Like I said, I've seen small business owners for many, many years that I've worked with or I've
Yeah.
consulted with who, I just want people to think and act like owners. And it's like, well, what do you do to empower them to do
Yeah.
that? Do they have a voice? Do they get to give input? Do you give them responsibility? Do you micromanage? Do you share profits with them? Do
Right.
you allow them to have an
They're
ownership
probably
stake?
overwhelmed. Like, wait, wait, wait.
But yeah, I want them to act like owners, but I'm not
But I'm
going to
not
give
giving
them
them any
any,
of
yeah, I'm
this.
not going to give them
Yeah.
anything that makes them feel empowered to feel like an owner or be an
Right.
owner because somebody doesn't have to have an ownership stake in a company to feel like an owner.
That's
But
right.
when they're given responsibility and trust and able to fail forward and without
Yeah.
being ridiculed and
Yeah.
they're all the things an owner wants within their company.
Yeah.
And, when they see you pulling up in a new Mercedes every other week and building this dream house and they haven't gotten a raise in 2 years, you're not building a
You're not
culture of
practicing what you're
ownership.
preaching. Yeah.
Not building a culture of ownership at
You're
that
not
point.
at all. No. In the age now, as we mentioned before, with AI and even other workforce changes and demands that are upon us, we're asking people to adapt quickly, to change their skills, adopt new
Mhm,
skills, go back for different certifications. We have different navigating of ambiguities. How do
mhm.
you feel that plays into a culture that ownership culture matters right now? or why does it matter right now?
I don't even know if I put the 2 in the same category only because people are still I mean, we have 4 generations in our workforce,
Mhm.
and they're many of them are very resistant to change, and they've done things the same way for 30 years, and
Yeah.
there was a culture at Brubaker that if it was going to upset people, we don't do it. So, you have people that have worked there for 20, 30, 40 years who, "Well, they've never made me change anything before. Why are you making me
Right.
change things now?" And trying to explain to our team, why do we do things like rebranding? Why do we change, why are we now asking people to use software,
Yeah.
which to them feels so antiquated and not comfortable.
Mhm.
So trying to explain the big picture is difficult when somebody just doesn't have any idea of how could software help me. I've been sitting drawings on my table and writing them by hand for all these years, and that
Mhm.
works. Why are you asking me to
Why
do
are you
something
asking
different?
me to do it? Yeah.
And then we have the younger generation who they embrace the technology and they want it and they love the newer look of our vehicles.
Yeah.
And so there's two sides of it. We want them to feel like owners, but then when they question things, because as an owner, they don't think that we should be spending our money on that.
Yeah.
We could be spending money other ways. It's a really fine balance of trying to explain things that are going to be hard to understand without getting, sometimes it can be frustrating. It's like, why
Mhm.
why aren't we all on the same page? Let's just be on the same
Mhm.
page. Or why don't you just trust me to make decisions? But I'm like, this team has been here we have an average tenure of 18 years.
Yeah.
They've been here a long time.
Yeah.
And here I'm this lady that just comes in like, hey, guess what?
We're gonna do
In
this
the
thing.
first 3
Yeah.
years, we're gonna change everything because that's what we need to do to become an employee-owned company, and it's like they're like, "Whoa, like, what is
Yes.
happening here?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I didn't always provide enough clarity, I'm, like, moving 15 miles ahead, and they're back there going, "Whoa, like, you just blew past us, lady, come back, and we need to figure out what you're doing
Mhm.
here."
Mhm.
So and I was making the mistake of trying to communicate everything myself, so everything was my fault. So our team was bought in, but they didn't have to say anything. They could kind of, wasn't my
Wash your hands
decision.
of
That
it.
was,
It's all right.
yeah.
New
And it's
lady.
not that they were doing that maliciously or
No,
trying to,
no.
but it's like they didn't know how to explain this to everybody because they don't like change either.
Correct.
But it's, to be able to wind that up to the bigger picture. Like
Yeah.
for me, I think finally last year I said to my team, my role as CEO is to build wealth for you and every one of your families. That is
Mm.
my only job. That is what my goal should be every single day because they are the owners I am serving as CEO. And I am going to have to make decisions sometimes that are hard and sometimes you're not going to understand them. But I
Mhm.
promise you that every decision I make, I think it's what's going to be best for our company.
Yeah.
I'm not guaranteed that it always is because
Yeah.
I'm going to fail and I'm going to make mistakes
Yeah.
sometimes. But my goal is always, it's not self-serving. It's not for me to make more. Well, it is. It's
Yeah.
for me to make more money too. But truly, I want our team to all have the home of their dreams, the car of their dreams, the
Yeah.
family of their dreams,
Yeah.
everything they've ever wanted. I want them all to retire as millionaires.
Mhm.
Bob Whalen, who is the CEO of HP Global, I'm kind of like a fangirl of
Mhm.
his.
Mhm.
We're technically competitors, but Bob and I have started to get to know each other, and that's they have 30 millionaires on their team as an
Wow.
ESOP, and why wouldn't that be our goal?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, why wouldn't it be?
Why wouldn't it be? I tell you what, I made. It must be buying in with these owners of Brubaker. I had a plumber to come to my house probably a month and a half ago, and of Brubaker, of course. And he's, I think, a 30-year employee. And you probably knew who
About
came
this
to my
time,
home.
yeah.
Yes. And he had his tablet and he was scrolling through telling me what was happening with my
Mhm.
plumbing and the things that I needed to purchase, the things that were optional. He noticed a couple of other things, and he was just zooming through that thing, and I was so impressed because I feel he is in a demographic that we typically
Right.
like stereotype,
Mhm.
right? That say, okay, they're not invested in these new technologies, the new ideas, and this person obviously found a reason to be
Mhm.
presenting to me as a customer, right?
Mhm.
And that is a
Yeah.
buy-in, you know, of
Don is probably one of our best examples of embracing employee ownership, and
mm,
he models that for our younger team members. He gets our younger team members excited about it. he truly embraces it. And
Yeah.
of course, he didn't love having to use technology, but now he's
Yeah.
like, wow, okay.
Mhm.
And we have employees now at every level that are like, okay, I really didn't want to use this software, but now that I'm using it, it's cutting down on my time and I can get
Yeah.
more done. And,
Yeah.
we have some that were like, I am never like, I don't even
Yeah.
want to use a
I don't
computer.
care
Don't
what
even
you
ask me to
say,
use
right?
email. And now they're using like quoting software and,
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah.
yeah. And they're embracing it. And
Yeah.
it's really exciting to watch.
Yeah, yeah. I wrote a few things on here regarding that psychological safety. And of course, sometimes the biggest fear is that I'm going to make a mistake.
Right.
If I learn this thing or if I don't learn it adequately enough, I'm going to make a mistake
Hmm.
and this is still my job and it might
Yeah.
cost me my job, right? So that fear of mistake, the ideas itself are changing the way business goes. That
Hmm.
change sometimes is very scary. It's in itself,
Right.
and sometimes I think that with change, it's hard to keep up the transparency, because we're explaining while we go, you know?
Yes. It's a delicate balance of
Yeah.
what do you share and what do you not share.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I still struggle with that on a regular basis.
Yeah.
How much should I share and how
Yeah.
much should I not share?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have you ever felt you made some type of error in not sharing?
um, probably not. I wouldn't say an error, but there are things that I probably should have shared sooner
Yeah.
or, things that I didn't even think about, like
Yeah.
that I should share.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that went back to if I would be empowering my managers and leaders with more information instead of feeling like I have to protect them from all my decisions. So it's
Yes.
my job to tell everybody what's happening or what's going on. So once I started, allowing them to share information with their teams and it wasn't always coming from me, I think that was a big mistake I made early on, just trying to manage all the communication of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it just was not,
Yeah. Some things they have to
yeah.
own themselves.
I was worried I'd be run over in the parking lot by someone if I didn't start letting somebody else say,
Yeah.
"Hey, we are on board with this as well. This is
Yeah,
not just Aimée."
yeah. Well, that's also protecting your people, so
Yes.
that's a
Yes.
caring, that's part of that caring too. So on that, I think that, let's shift a little bit to accountability versus control, because you
Mhm.
spoke on this quite a bit already. There's that over controlling space of micromanaging, of course, that we
Mhm.
hear all the time. Endless approvals, it's like people have to go through
Right.
all the red tape to get things done, and it creates low trust, as
Yeah.
we know. So let's speak a little bit, or help you talk a little bit on what you feel is healthy accountability.
I really accountability is a big deal for me. And there
Mhm.
again, I came into a company where there was a complete and total lack of accountability.
Mm.
And so now when you start bringing accountability to the table, a good example is younger technicians weren't always, 5 years ago getting the training that they really should have. So then they're making mistakes. A water heater is not turned tight enough. And then all of a sudden people have water
Yeah,
all over their basement.
yeah.
So when I came in, I saw that we had a lot of like homeowner claims. And I
Mhm.
said, okay, what happens? What's the process when a claim comes in? It's like, oh, well, we turn it into the insurance company. Okay, well, what happens on our team
There,
member side?
yeah.
Well, I mean, they know that they did it. That was kind of the answer. And it's like, but
And then we have another claim.
I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I just analyzed all of this, and it's
Yeah.
the same four people, and most of them no longer work for us, but it's the same four people.
Yeah.
There has to be accountability. Like for their sake and for the company's sake, there has
Mhm.
to be accountability.
Mhm.
And you know, I said, even if they leave and go somewhere else, if we haven't set them up for success, letting them know what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
So I think I tell my team all the time, I'm like, unfortunately, we are in the business of hiring humans.
Yes.
So there are no such thing as perfect people. There are no such thing as people that don't make mistakes. We're getting ready to launch a new website. And I think the firm that did our website, they had written copy that just said, we do it right the first time. I was like, oh no, we can't put that in there
Mm-mm.
because we
We
don't.
don't.
We hire
Yeah.
humans. So, but what we do is we will always make it right. That is
Yes.
the only thing I can guarantee is that no matter what happens, or if a system fails or we make a mistake, we're going to make it right. but we hire humans.
Yeah.
So accountability isn't always you're in trouble because you did something wrong or you made a mistake. It's more, how are we going to work together to figure out how this doesn't happen again?
Yeah.
Or maybe this is something that we know in our industry happens, but how
Mhm.
can we put a process in place to lessen it, and
Mhm.
showing the big picture. So we have a director of customer experience now. Sherry Harry is working for us, and
Yeah, Sherry.
I brought her in that role as director of customer experience so that she could manage anytime a customer calls us and says they had an issue,
Mm.
so that we can start to see patterns, which helps us be better.
Yeah.
And our team understands. Sherry goes and meets with our teams as a whole and tells them, here's what happens when we have a homeowner's claim. It's $1,000. And then our insurance goes up, which impacts all of you, because if our profit goes down because we're paying too many claims, we don't
Mhm.
get to share profit. So it's always bringing things full circle, that accountability is in place because we're protecting you and the company,
Yes.
not any one individual, not self-serving to me,
Yeah.
not to a shareholder or an owner,
Mhm.
to our whole company, because we are a company filled with owners.
I love it.
So
Yeah.
we have to have accountability. If
Mhm.
we don't, we're doing you a disservice because
That's
we're
right.
going to make less money. So it's
Mhm.
always telling the why. I think
Mhm.
that's probably the most important.
Yeah. And with ownership, accountability has to be chosen.
Hmm.
It's not something that you can force
Right.
on people, because if they won't own it, they won't own it if you force them or not. So
And
choose
we're
it.
teaching peer to peer accountability. Like, it
Mm.
doesn't always have to come from a supervisor. If a peer sees somebody doing something
Speak on it.
unsafe, speak up. You're an
Yes.
owner here. This impacts you too. But tell the person because you care about them.
Yes.
Don't tell them
You
because you
need to
want to
tell
be
them about
right
them.
or be
Yeah.
smarter or
Mhm.
look down on them. As long as you're giving information because you truly care and you want to
Yeah.
help them and the company,
Yes.
you're in the right space.
Yeah.
If you're not, if it's malicious or has
Mhm.
malintent, then you probably don't belong here.
I
I
love
mean, it's
that.
probably that
It's the
simple.
truth. It's the
Yeah.
truth. Yeah. That's a great lead. Once again, I would have you read this, but of course, we both have crazy eyesight, so I will not. But my next cue I had on here was culture is everyone's
Mhm.
responsibility. And when we're talking about everyone being an owner and the culture that creates, let's
Mhm.
go into talk about the culture that creates at Brubaker. Oh,
Yeah, it's funny because a year ago, if you ask our team, what are you proud of? Like,
yeah.
what makes us such a great company? And everything was customer focused.
Mhm.
We are so good with the customer. Customers love us. We take care of our customers. We have great customer service. We do the job right. You know, and
Yeah.
it was never about how they treated each other, because they didn't treat each other very well. It was almost like a team of siblings that were growing up, and there was just
You stop. No, you
sibling
stop.
rivalry. Yeah, why is he always in my business? And
Yeah.
so I see this shift today,
Yeah.
and it's sometimes I have to step back and just say, like, "Oh my gosh, did he just really say that? Like, did
Mm.
he just say, you know what? How do we help John be successful?" Instead of, "John is such a failure. Why is he always doing something wrong?" And it's watching that shift because we have preached culture. I can't control our culture.
No.
No
Mm-mm.
one individual in here can control our culture.
That is
But if
absolutely
every
right.
single one of us are putting our team, to me, if our team is solid, if we're taking care of our team, our
Yeah.
customer will always be taken
It will
care of.
shine through.
Always. So
Yes.
we don't have to focus on customer service. We need to
Mhm.
focus on treating each other with kindness,
Mhm.
respecting each other, helping each other be our best every single day.
Yeah.
And if you're not a positive part of our culture, we all have bad days. But if you are consistently not a positive part of our culture,
Mhm.
subject matter expertise no longer matters.
So true.
And again, this was a company where subject matter expertise was everything. And in a lot of trade organizations,
It
especially,
is.
it's like,
Yeah.
what would we do if Tim left? Like,
Yeah.
Tim is so smart and he's the only guy that
Oh,
knows how to do this.
oh,
Well, you know
yeah.
what? We're going to have to figure it out,
Mhm.
because culture is so infectious throughout our organization. And we watched it happen. There are other people with subject matter expertise, and maybe
Yeah.
we just need to find somebody else to train that
Yeah.
level of subject matter expertise, but
Yeah.
helping them not be afraid of someone leaving because they're not
Mhm.
a fit. If
Mhm.
somebody leaves, and we have a very high retention rate, if somebody leaves our company, we're typically not too upset,
Yeah.
because they probably
Needed to be somewhere
they
else.
needed
Yeah.
to, yeah,
Mhm.
maybe it was their time. And
Yep.
we always try and wish them well. And you know, if they're meant to come back, they'll come back someday.
Mhm.
But or if we've trained them to the point where they're off to their next thing and we couldn't give that them,
Congratulations to us. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
we're happy for that.
I completely agree. I really like that. I like the conversation of culture is not one person. It's not the owner, the boss. It's
Right.
not the leader of the organization. It's not the person that's on that front line.
Mhm.
It's all,
Yeah.
I always say that it is a living, breathing thing
Yep.
that's constantly
We have to model
morphing.
it, it's my
Yes.
and I don't always model it great. Like,
Right.
I fail at it just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think that is one thing maybe a lot of owners don't always admit.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not modeling the culture, but they
Yeah.
expect everyone else to model the culture,
Mm-hmm.
and they're also not open to their team saying, "Hey."
Yeah.
And I've
You're
worked
not
for people
modeling.
like
Yeah.
that,
Me too.
like,
Mm-hmm.
and there's just no openness there.
Yeah.
So when the leader is in a positive part of the culture, now
Oof,
systemically,
it's
it's
toxic.
tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough,
Mhm,
but I
mhm.
also can't single-handedly make our
Yeah,
culture great.
right. But employees trust when, the leaders model it,
Right,
right? There's a
right.
level of trust that's established that says, "I can be that also,"
Mhm,
right? Or, "I have the
mhm,
autonomy to also, be an addition to what we're creating here," right?
mhm.
If you're modeling it. And to your point, given that space to say, "I may can't be all things all the time."
Right.
So if today she's off, how do we lift her up? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So we do need that sometimes.
correct.
Yeah. So at that, practical ways of building ownership culture. Are we rewarding ownership or dependency?
Hmm, that's a good question.
Yeah, I like that one too. Thanks.
I think I think in ESOPs especially, there can be this sense of entitlement
Mhm,
to, "I deserve something. I deserve a say. I deserve a
mhm,
vote." You know,
mhm.
"Why did you" we did a rebrand, which was a big cost to the
Yeah,
company,
huge.
and trying to explain why that was beneficial is difficult because not everybody has the mindset to understand how marketing and branding.
Yeah.
I think now, a year later, when people are saying to them, like, "We see your company everywhere. We love your new trucks," or, now they've started to get positive feedback. I think it's kind of sinking in that, okay, maybe this was a good thing,
Mhm.
but it was hard for them to understand. And it was very important to me early on to help them understand how I helped our team understand where does the say come in as an owner. So I
Mm.
said, if I'm a shareholder in Coca-Cola,
Mhm.
I don't get to tell Coke, even if I'm holding a lot of shares, unless I'm the majority share, even
Yeah,
as a majority shareholder, it might not be written that I have any say in what happens.
very true.
So I don't get to tell Coke what their logo should look like,
Mhm.
or what colors they should use, or if they should be in a can or a bottle. But what I can do is tell more people to buy Coke, and I can drink more Coke, and I can encourage others to drink Coke, and that's going to help Coke increase
Yeah,
their stock and their share
yeah.
value. So we call it ownership, but really we're all shareholders.
Yes.
And we get those shares for free, which is a huge benefit. And when you have something that is that precious, we don't take advantage of it.
That's
We have
right.
to care for it.
Mhm.
And caring for it looks like all of us working together, respecting each other's expertise that they
Yeah,
bring to the table.
yeah.
I would never tell someone what HVAC system to put in a
Yeah,
home because that
right,
would not go well.
right.
And there are going to be decisions that I make that I need the team to trust that that's my
That's
area of
yours area.
expertise.
That's right. That's
So
right.
I think that helps them understand that a little bit. But there is, in some ways, can be a sense of entitlement that I
Mhm,
should be able to have more say than I have.
mhm.
And that's still, I think, as we're so early in our ESOP, I think that's one of the biggest hurdles that
Yeah,
most employee owned companies, and even when you're trying to build a culture of shared ownership,
yeah,
even if you're just rewarding through profit sharing or bonus programs, it is hard for people to understand, like,
yeah.
where does my level of authority stop? Why do
Mhm.
we have to have hierarchy? Why can't every single one of us make
If
the
we're
decision about
owners,
what kind of refrigerator
yeah.
we should get? We should
Mhm.
all vote. 103 people,
Yeah.
let's vote. I was like, wow, we will have 103 refrigerators in our break
Yes.
room. I can guarantee you that. That is why we need
Yes.
to have somebody making the final decision.
Yes.
So,
I mean, do you have a recognition initiative around those that, champion the ownership concept?
yeah,
Yeah.
so we're starting to get away from yearly reviews. I would
Mhm.
say Probably, kind of our frontline team,
Mhm.
they're still on yearly reviews. Most of our leader and management team are, we're talking monthly. We've got goals, there's accountability. Um, but what we are doing with our team is the more value people are bringing, the
Mhm.
more we're having conversations about increases in pay, about more structured, bonus plans.
Yeah.
The whole company now, they all know if we make a certain percentage of profit, we share an equal amount to every single employee owner. Doesn't matter if they're a leader, a manager, on the front line, somewhere in the middle. This past year, everybody got the same amount.
Wow.
Managers have bonus
Right,
programs
of
that maybe
course.
not
Yeah.
every team, but
Mhm.
that I think it's important that they not only are seeing those share values for retirement, but that they're also receiving something tangible because
Mhm.
they've really pitched in and worked hard. And
Mhm.
there are people, yes, that contribute more than others. So they're rewarded probably more often with pay
Yeah.
increases and different things. But
Mhm.
I think the profit sharing too is also, I don't want anybody to feel like they're less important than someone else because
Mhm.
of what their contribution is. We have
Mhm.
people that want to climb the ladder, and we have people that are so happy where they
Where
are,
they are, and they
and
and they
and we
do
need to
well
help them
there.
know that that's okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
they do well there, right? They are a piece of that big work, right?
Yeah.
Doing well with that. So here's some closing thoughts that I want you to add with me. Ownership culture is built through, just say a word,
Trust and caring
trust and caring. I say clarity. What else you got?
all the time.
All the time. I
All
like
the
it.
time. You can never give enough.
No,
There's
mm-mm,
never enough clarity.
no. How about empowerment?
Necessary.
Yeah. Hmm. So I guess just
It's
that.
one of our we just changed our we're changing our values, and
Oh,
that's
you
one of
have one
our
of those.
that's one of
Oh,
our
that's
words,
good.
yeah.
I tell you what, even if you don't change your values, ma'am, it seems like you all are doing a pretty good job over there. I am very happy where I am. I'm like, what? I'm sitting here like, girl, stop it. So
I'm not hiring you,
congratulations.
you'll
And
take my job.
I don't know. I'm happy, and I'm happy knowing you. Honestly, I may. I think this has been
Well,
a
the
delight
I
because
feel the same exact way.
just knowing how a CEO looks at that ownership culture in a true way, not just in a financial way, but also
Mhm.
seeing the human piece of this and how that person's input, their trust, their transparency, their life, their family, how it looks in the doors of Brubaker and outside is extremely important,
Yeah.
right? And it has to be. So I have a thought here, a closing question, then I have a question for you. I mean, a closing line and then a question for you. The organizations that lead the future will be the ones where people feel responsible for helping shape it. My question to you is what's one thing leaders could do tomorrow to strengthen ownership culture?
I I I think it still comes down to trust and caring. First of all,
Yeah.
trust your team
Yeah.
and make sure they know that you care about them as a human being.
Mhm.
There's no better way to have somebody want to work hard for you than to show them how much you care and how much you're willing to do for their success.
Yeah.
And I think that
Speaks volumes.
there's not enough of that. I hear
No.
people say, "Oh, you don't need to like the people that you work with." And
Yes, you do.
I don't agree with
Right.
that at all.
Me
I'm just like,
either.
if I don't like you, I don't want to
I
work
don't
with
want to
you.
work here. I
And
say
trust
that
me, I've had
all the
people I
time.
didn't like working with and they don't work there anymore. I'm like,
Mhm.
no, I don't have to want to hang out with you on the weekend,
Correct. But
but
I do want to like them. It makes my
yeah.
work
I
environment
think good
easier.
people
Yeah,
don't dislike a lot of people. And if
that
there are
part.
people that aren't likable on our team, they probably don't fit within our culture.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's
Yeah.
I just disagree with that. I want to
Mhm.
like the people that I have to work with
I
every
do
single
too. I
day.
want to like them, or I want to find something to like about them. And I think that part
Mhm.
is on me, right?
And I'm probably
Versus.
sometimes a little too radically candid because I will say, I don't like you very much, but I'm going to tell you why. And I think that there are some things
There's
that you
some
can
good
do
things
about
about
that.
that.
I would
Yeah.
want somebody to tell me if I'm not very
Mhm.
likable or if
Mhm.
I'm sure I step on people's toes all the
Mhm.
time. I can be a massive steamroller. But it's
No.
like tell me. Like just tell me. Like I am
Yeah.
so open to hearing that and
Mhm.
I might tell you, you know what? I'm sorry in this case. I feel like I have to be or you know what? I need to step back and I probably didn't handle that
Mhm.
great.
Mhm. And I think that helps other people be more reflective, right?
Yes.
Even if
Yes.
they take it away with them. Yeah.
Our ownership culture, the one of the biggest changes I've seen is people taking their own accountability, like, "Whoa, I really messed
Yeah.
up there," because before it was
Yeah.
like, "Well, I mean, I messed up, but," and
Because it's
now
trying
it's
to
like,
explain away the work,
yeah,
right?
they feel
Yeah.
safe. They feel
Now they feel
safe that
safe.
they can be human.
Yeah.
Again, even
Mhm.
AI screws up.
Yeah, that's right.
AI does not get the right answer every time.
Yeah.
I
Oh.
use it every single day, and it does not always steer me down the right path.
Uh,
So even the non-humans are getting it
it
wrong
ain't wrong,
sometimes. Yeah.
right? Yeah. Well, thank you for being human with me.
Thank you.
I
This was
really
fun.
appreciate this. And I really want to say a thank you to the team at Work Wisdom for giving us this opportunity.
Mhm.
And we will see you on another leadership episode. Thank you.